Sam, I had a lot of fun in the session today. I've never brought a dog that I found on the street to start off a session, and you had some fun playing with little Max, huh? Found a stray dog on the way here, so we had company for the first hour of the session. This is Sam, and this is Sam's roadmap to success. Can we get a down over here across my lap? How about down? Down? Is his word down? Mm-hmm. Down. There we go. We'll pay for half of that. How about the other half? Come on. Come on, you can do it. Well, there we go. Crash. All right, Sam's problem is separation anxiety. The Guardian, as I talked about in the video above, has already done a lot of good work. He's breaking one of the new rules we instituted, which is not being on the furniture. And so dogs with separation anxiety, a lot of times they're needy, they're clingy, and so that's why all the tips that I went over in the video above should help with that. But there's a lot of other things that we can do that can actually help set a dog up for success. So we started off talking about exercise. Like a lot of my clients who live in the Midwest, it's really not very pleasant to be outside right now, so the dog doesn't get as much exercise. So what I would recommend is getting a retractable leash. Is the only time I recommend one. And we have some steps leading up to the apartment. Now you can probably do it. I guess the Guardian said she's not worried about him running away. And it's kind of an enclosed area. We just want to make sure the dog stays safe. So basically go to the top of the stairs with an empty stomach, touch his nose with a treat, throw it to the bottom of the stairs. When he goes down and licks it up, come up with a word that means to go to the bottom, maybe call it Huskers. And then call him, come all the way back up the top and maybe give him another treat called Stanford or whatever. I don't think we have some Husker fans here. That's okay. We're equally opportunity, and Nebraska's supposed to be the nicest fans in college football. So, anyways, coming up with fun command words that makes people smile and laugh is really beneficial because dogs can read facial expressions. So if that makes you guys laugh, your dog's gonna be more inclined to want to do it. So the first time I do it is I throw the treat down and up, and I count each down up as one. So throw one down, let him go get it, say whatever the word is, call him back up, give another one, say whatever the word is, and count that as one. First time do it with an empty stomach like I talked about, and then keep on doing that until the dog comes up or just says, you're crazy, I'm not going to get down there, or I'm not coming back up. Now we know what his maximum number is. Let's say it's 50. I'm guessing his probably going to be probably 75-ish. And we know what that maximum number is. Then we want to exercise in 25 to 50% of that maximum number. And we don't know exactly how many, so that's why we usually recommend what I call a journal. And, well, it's called a journal. Basically what I do is, that's one thing we can do. Another thing, we could chase the laser around. You could throw the ball. We could also do scent games, S-C-E-N-T, just Google scent games. We're going to put him in the other room and hide 5 treats. He's got to use his nose to find them. That can be stimulating and mentally draining. And the idea is to get him exercise every 2 to 4 hours, somewhere in that range. And then at the end of the day, and then also anything noteworthy that comes by. He had a barking incident, he freaked out at this, or he chewed something up, or whatever it was. Write all that stuff down, the time and what happened. And at the end of the day, give him a letter grade, A through F. Just of his overall behavior throughout the day. Not chewing or just separation, just overall behavior. The next day, give him a couple more repetitions of the up downs or a whole extra exercise if it's anything other than an A grade that he gets. And keep playing around with those elements and the frequency and the duration until you find out, until he starts getting an A day for behavior. Now you know how much, what he needs to succeed. Then we can basically recreate that on a daily basis to put him in a position to succeed. We can also help him out, like before we have guests come over, exercise him before the guest comes over. He likes to jump up a little bit on guests, and if I don't have it linked up above and you didn't find the video, let me know and I can share it with you. But I would suggest doing the stepping on a leash thing that I described when he first arrived, and then standing just right outside of his reach and turning to engage and disengaging when he's calm or excited, until he eventually learns just to stay calm and sits down on his own without any commands, and just learns that the only way people are going to pet me is by being calm and balanced. Now we also talked about, hey, you're checking out the Smooth, huh? Yeah, that's my camera stabilizer. So let me see, we also talked about separation, or about petting with a purpose, and passive training. Petting with a purpose is petting, redirecting the dog. He comes up and likes to nudge, sticks his nose underneath your arm and pushes your arm up. That's his way of saying, pet me, give me attention. Well, if he does that and I pet him, I'm telling him, yes, you're in charge of me. But then if I don't listen to him when he tells me don't go outside, I'm afraid of being alone, or I'm afraid of you going out without me, well then he starts freaking out and he stresses out because I'm not listening to him. And that can amplify things. So same thing with the lack of exercise, can amplify. It's probably not going to cause this. Very rarely does it cause separation anxiety, but it is a contributing factor. And so when you are practicing the steps above, make sure that we are exercising him and giving him about a 10 to 15 minutes reprieve from exercise to catch his breath before we practice. So that just makes the practice a lot easier. I just look for every advantage I can give a dog, whatever the problem is, especially when it's a little bit more, I just always look for every advantage. Let me see. Petting with a purpose is directing him into doing something we want. Oh, buddy. Do it. This is apropos. Damn, or a crash. So I redirected him into a crash, and when he did what I asked him to, I petted him and said the command word, and I can give him a treat or the affection that I'm giving him right now. If he's already sitting, ask him to lay down, or ask him to sit on the other side. You're just going to redirect him into doing something that you're asking him to do, unless he comes up and prepays, which is actually, he already was doing that before the session. We call this manding or learning to mand. And when he does, make sure you pet him under his chin and say sit or come or whatever the command word is. So what we're doing is, instead of saying no, is we're redirecting him to something we want so we can say yes for doing anything we want. And after enough repetition, he's just going to start pro-offering those behaviors and prepaying by sitting more and more often or laying down or whatever it is, so that we can actually, so that's how he gets his command, how he gets his reward. Right, buddy? I'm going to sit up a little bit so you don't look so much taller than me. And we also went over passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer the behavior that we want. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he sits, pet him and say sit. Lays down, pet him and say crash. And again, whenever possible, try to pet him under his chin to facilitate that nose-up orientation. Now remember, use those watchwords. I say paycheck if I suspect someone's petting without a purpose. I say testify if somebody's missing an opportunity to pay when the dog prepays. And come up with one for passive training as well. Booty, maybe pirate booty or whatever it is. So that way he starts, we basically have ways to remind each other without saying, hey, you're missing an opportunity to pet him. Guardian's just doing a passive training right there. Or that's actually petting with a purpose, but could be either one. Now, if you get in the habit of doing both these things, every time you pet your dog, it's like a micro dog training session. It builds the dog respect for you. It builds up the dog's confidence. It helps the dog practice the desired behavior. And it's really being polite. So it really accomplishes several things all at once. But you just have to be observant for both of them or help each other out, point it out. We talked about rules. And this is a very common thing that a lot of the dogs that have separation anxiety do not have any rules whatsoever. And that makes them feel that they are the same rank or status as us or has more rank or status than us. And if that's the case, then they feel like maybe we're responsible for it, especially if they tell us what to do when we do it. Pet me, give me attention. Remember, any attention that you give your dog is ultimately validating. So the Guardian was asking me off camera, I was raised old school. What if dogs do something I kind of want to, tell them to get down or shove them off the couch or whatever, not in a bad way, but just to execute it. Well, that's a reward because the dog wanted your attention. You came over and pushed the dog off the couch. It also activated the opposition reflex, which makes them want to jump back. So now you're dealing with two things. But instead, when it gets on the couch and we throw a treat on the dog bed, and it goes over and licks it up, we say Jamaica. Now we're coming up with a positive. We're not saying no. We're just redirecting him away from what you don't want, so we don't have to say no. We get to say yes for something else, and he's not. We're still accomplishing the same thing as saying a no. When you say no enough, and sometimes it can frustrate the dog. I'm not going to ask anymore because she always says no. Or it just frustrates them because they look at it as a limit that they can't do it. So instead, it's much better to redirect them to something we do like. So one of the rules is not being allowed in the furniture for 30 days or as long as the problem's still going on. At that point, furniture with an invitation, but only for good behavior. So if he gets invited and he gets down to get a drink of water, when he comes back, he would need another invitation to get back up here. Let me see. Another rule, have to sit before I let you in and out the door. Say sit once. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down somewhere, wait 1 minute, and then go back and try again. Next time, walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes. And as soon as you say sit and his butt hits the ground, open that door like there's no control in his butt. And that becomes the reward. Let me see. Not be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. We're going to use the same method I showed you when we made him exit the kitchen for feeding him. He's going to have to eat after the human eats something first. Again, it doesn't have to be a real meal, just something in 5 more bites. And then come up with a passive training word for him. Every time he eats, maybe say Dario's or whatever you want to say. And then after a while, Dario's means I get to eat. And you'll be able to get him to sit. I wouldn't tell him to, but eventually you could put the food in his bowl. He's not allowed in the kitchen. You come over here, turn the TV on. You guys should see the TV. I've never seen one this big. But I mean, it's like 3D. But you turn the TV on, you're watching TV a little bit, and then you just say, Dario's, and then he'll run over and eat. So to do that for about 2 months, when he takes his first bite of food, say sushi, taco, Dario's, whatever the one-word command is that means to eat. And after a while, you just say that command word, and he'll go eat automatically. Let me see. Shouldn't be within 7 feet of a human who is eating. Shouldn't be allowed in the bed without an invitation to come up on the bed. Now for the furniture, I usually recommend adding a dog bed at the same time. We have kind of a dog bed here. It's kind of a reconstituted dog bed. But I would go to Groupon. I think I texted you a link to it. That one has a little bit of an arm so he can snuggle a little bit. And eventually you can put towels on there and he can ball up and snuggle in the towels as well. But the one that you've got now is just so many crevices and places where a tree could fall that he couldn't see it. Remember when you get it though, get it a light cream, a white, or a light gray. Dogs' eyes they're colorblind, so it's hard for them to see, and no pattern. And you're just going to toss those treats on it and assign the command word. So every time he goes over, he sees you throw the dog treat, he goes over there and licks it up, you say the word Stanford. And after a while, Stanford means go to the dog bed. And I have a video for that if you want. If you can't figure out how to do it, let me know and I can share it with you. Let me see. What else do we go over? We went over the 4 escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. I have a video for that as well. We also went over the leadership exercise, which is I just demonstrated it once. I don't think you'll need to do that, but it's something you might want to do. It just helps practice. One of the guardians like to wrestle with him. So when they start wrestling, I would say WWE as we start wrestling and play. But after about a minute, stand up and cross your arms and freeze. And as soon as he settles down, pet him and say timeout. And then once he's nice and relaxed, go back to wrestling and wrestle with him again. Say WWE, come here, buddy. Yes, come here. And so practice for every wrestling session. There's 3 or 4 practices of stopping. This is a great way for him to develop a little bit of self-control. Come here, buddy. Come. And help him practice listening to us. And also, like I said, practicing stopping. Stopping anything is important, and a lot of dogs just don't have any practice doing that. They play too rough. They chase it too much. They bark too much, or whatever it is. So helping them practice a behavior is really powerful. It can really help them with other situations. Let me see. What else did we go over? Anything else you want me to cover? I think that's pretty much it. Now, if there is something you forgot to ask me here or later on, or something new that happens, please call or text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going well. And there will be a section where it'll like ebb or flow, where all of a sudden he's just not listening anymore. And I get a panic phone call. He defeated it. Just stay the course. Eventually, he's going to, yes, come on, buddy, you can get that. There you go. Eventually, he'll go back to the way, he's just remembering that it was, and he's trying to go back to the way that it was. But if you stay the course, eventually he'll be motivated to want to do things that we want, because that's what gets him our attention. Last thing is the write-up. You're going to watch this. Everybody's excited to watch it right away. Set a mark for your calendar to come back a month from now and watch, especially this video again. In your case, I would actually watch both videos, because there's probably little tips, little things, parts of it that you're going to miss that you'll pick up later on. And my clients that get the best response are the ones that typically come back to it a month later. Now, because he's not going to back in the kennel, he's not staying here by himself, the practice at the stay should be pretty quick if you rep it. So I would recommend you try to practice the stay 5 different times a day. Try to do once, one couple practice sessions in the morning before you leave for the day. And then when you get home, take him out to do some business. After he does his business, put him in a sit, as long as it's not too cold. Stay. Just wait for 10 seconds. But remember, for the stay, come up with a different command word, because I think he's a little bit confused. So hold, or come up with how to say stay in a foreign language. A word that sounds well, or you could just say, statue or freeze or something like that. But I think in his case, because he kind of knows how to stay, but the way that the guardian taught it was, I think, a little bit confusing. Make sure you always give him that parole command, or if you change it to whatever you want, at the end of 5 or 10 or how many practice sessions. This is the last thing he does is that. And if possible, after the stay, pet him a little bit, play with him a little bit, throw, run stuff, whatever it is, just so he remembers that he ended on a good one. We didn't practice so long that I got frustrated. And then at the end of that, we got to play, or we got to go for a walk. Something good that he liked to have happened afterwards. Sam, sit. Sam, sit. Sit. Isn't this a good looking dog? Somebody out there watching will say that it looks just like her dog, Luca. You're just a bigger version of Luca. Well, this is Sam, and this is Sam's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you meet it.